UFC 280 last night was absolutely incredible. The fights were unbelievably matched from top to bottom. I think we can all admit I am officially a casual. My prediction for Oliveira against Makhachev was completely wrong. You know, I've only got to hold my hands up and say that was fucking stupid of me to disrespect Makhachev the way I did. Same for you, Dunny, and same for you, Dylan. But yeah, I mean, after a performance like that, wow, you can't even hate on him. I mean, you know, that had such big implications, you know, for the lightweight division, you know, where Makhachev was. You know, there was a lot of talk about, you know, the win streak that he was on compared to Oliveira. You know, Oliveira was, you know, on a ridiculous streak, beating the best of the best. Makhachev, you know, his last win was against Bobby Green, who's since been released in the UFC. So there was a lot of questions, you know, was he going to live up to, you know, the big hype on the biggest night of his career? You know, he's never had to, you know, carry the pressure of a fight like that on his back, and yeah, he blew everyone away. You know, his striking was unbelievable. You know, I was amazed at how dominant that victory was. And I mean, obviously, I know some people will say, oh, well, you could have seen it if you weren't a casual, but like I said, we're already established I'm a casual now, so yeah. Honestly, that take was not my best, but it's MMA. Things can change, you know. There was a lot of people backing Oliveira in that fight. There was a lot of people backing Makhachev. Makhachev showed his pure class, you know. Habib, wow. I mean, what those guys are accomplishing as a team, you know, really, really setting the standard for dominant champions. And I mean, after that fight, you're looking now, obviously Volkanovski seems to be the fight that's going to be happening next, but I just don't feel like you can write off someone like Makhachev after a win like that. And, you know, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to beat him. And I think even obviously Charles is definitely due a rematch. You know, I think he deserves a rematch. You know, you're gonna understand that there's no way the next title shot is going to go to Oliveira, unfortunately, because oh my god, fucking hell. Yeah, obviously the next fight is definitely, you know, Volkanovski at 155. That's an unbelievable fight. You know, real true pound for pound number ones facing each other. But I don't think you can really count out Makhachev after a performance like that. The way he absolutely dominated someone like Oliveira. And I mean, obviously, Oliveira, what unbelievable title run. You know, the guys he beat, the way he did it, you know, ridiculous shit. Like, nothing to knock on Oliveira. I think it just shows, you know, the levels there are at the top. And I think Oliveira, you know, kind of got outclassed. You know, he got dominated kind of from the minute that the fight started. Didn't really have an answer for anything. And that is just a testament to how unbelievable Makhachev is. So, yeah, I think Oliveira does deserve, you know, a rematch. You know, I think his title run definitely, you know, deserves a rematch against Makhachev. Do I think the outcome will change? No, I think it will probably be a closer fight next time. But I can just still see Makhachev probably getting a finish again. You know, unfortunately, Charles is going to want a rematch straight away. You know, he was kind of alluding to that in his press conference. But at the same time, there's no way that the Volkanovski fight's not happening, so Charles might have to either take a seat back, or he could fight Beneil Dariush in the first card of the year, which will be in Brazil. So that'd also be a good matchup. You know, Beneil looked really good. Again, you know, he's just unbelievable. You know, he's really gone under the radar for a lot of people. You know, he's ridiculously talented. Jiu-Jitsu world champion, which I didn't find out until Saturday night. The commentators mentioned it. Now, Makhachev, I think, proved, you know, he can stand and strike. He just doesn't need to use it because of how good his grappling and his wrestling is. And I think we're in for another Khabib style. Now, fuck that. We're not even for a Khabib style. We are in the Makhachev era. You know, I can't see him losing anytime soon. 30, 31, he's literally in the prime of his career. They say they want to break all the records. They want to beat Khabib's record. So, name me one person that Makhachev would struggle against in the lightweight division. I unfortunately can't pick one. You know, people, including me, were stupid enough to even, you know, compare Oliveira and Khabib's title reigns and, you know, having a discussion of who was greater. And again, I'll completely admit, I got that completely wrong. There's no denying Khabib, lightweight goat. But yeah, Aljamain Sterling, I mean, this guy just goes out there every time, you know, shows what he's about. You know, obviously, it was unfortunate that TJ had the dislocation, but I just can't see how that fight would have ended any other way. You know, I predicted that. I think Aljo is seriously disrespected. Maybe not seriously disrespected. I mean, definitely not so much more now. But I just feel like a lot of people still overlooked Aljo, you know. TJ obviously accomplished a lot. But Aljo is just ridiculous, mate. Like, his mentality, you know, he's got such a strong team around him with Merab, who's arguably the second best bantamweight in the division. Trains with Ali Quinter, Matt Serra, Ray Longo. They're some tough motherfuckers. You could even hear it in the corner when, Aljo's team heard or saw that the shoulder was out. You could hear Ray Longo shouting, "No mercy, no mercy." And, that's just shows how much of a tough fighter Aljo is. He absolutely dominated him. I mean, that first round was a 10-8, if I've ever seen a 10-8. Absolutely dominated him. I can't see anyone beating Aljo in the bantamweight division. I think he could potentially be the bantamweight GOAT. The guys he's beaten now, Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, finished TJ Dillashaw. If he's going to fight Henry Cejudo next, that's another big legacy fight for Aljo. And I think, Henry Cejudo, he's successful, without a doubt. Triple champion, as he likes to say, Olympic wrestler, gold in the Olympics, two-weight UFC world champion. Credit where credit is due. However, the level of the guys that Aljo has been beating in his career compared to Henry Cejudo, I also think the difference, Aljo was saying it himself, he struggles. I wouldn't say he struggles to make the weight, but it's a hard weight cut. He's a fucking big 135er. Henry Cejudo's not a big 135er. He is going to be tiny compared to Aljo, so I think even if that fight happens, Aljo will take that. Obviously, the fight before, you had Piotr Jan against Sean O'Malley, which, wow, that was an incredible fight. I think, obviously, we can all agree, Sean O'Malley did not win that fight. It was definitely a robbery. But in terms of how far I've seen bad robberies, there's been worse. There's definitely been worse robberies, I think, in boxing or UFC. I don't think it was a Jan 30-27 domination. Jan got really hurt. Sean O'Malley really, really showed that he deserves to be in there with the top. That was the biggest question going into this fight. Can he compete at the highest level against the best guys? And I think he passed that with flying colours. No one's ever hurt Peter Yan the way he did. Still, like I said, I agree. Peter Yan should have won that fight. I think he won the first 2 rounds and O'Malley won the last. O'Malley's striker looked so crisp. Obviously, I know that Peter Yan got the takedowns, but I think Sean O'Malley also did well in the rounds to, get up from those, compromising positions. Took Jan's left hand like I don't think many bantamweights would. It's just a testament to how good Sean O'Malley really is. I think it's only a matter of time before he becomes champion. Maybe not so much in the near future. Obviously now, that's probably a fight that the UFC will be looking to make. Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling. I think it will be a tough fight. I think that Aljo is seriously good. Like I said, I still can't see him losing that fight, but for Sean O'Malley to go 3 rounds with Peter Yan, that was a hard pace. At a 5-round fight, I can just see Aljo going through the gears and winning. Sean proved how tough of a cunt he is, and he's not someone that you can just get out there easy. Aljamain's a very smart fighter too. Putting himself in compromising positions, I think Aljo will fight a very smart fight. Peter Yan's wrestling is good, but the last fight that he had against Aljo showed and proved that there is levels to wrestling as well. So, I think obviously that is probably still the route to go for Aljo, to wrestle the fuck out of Sean O'Malley. And I can see that happening. But it's a fun fight. Who doesn't like fights like that? Obviously Peter Yan, again, should be the one that has come out of that fight with a win. But you just know what the UFC are going to do. The UFC would love to make a Sean O'Malley fight against Aljamain Sterling next. And I would still favour Aljamain Sterling. But it's fine. You literally never know. If Aljo can go beat Sean O'Malley and Henry Cejudo, there's no discussion. Aljo will be the GOAT of the bantamweights. How do we forget about Bilal Muhammad? He had an incredible victory against Sean Brady. Sean Brady 15-0, absolutely tough as nails. And Bilal just went out there again and proved why he is someone to not sleep on. I had him on my betting slip. He is an unbelievable fighter, so underrated. I think his style is so awkward. You don't really see his style, and to shut down and to finish a guy like Sean Brady the way he did. I think Bilal's right up there with those guys. I think Bilal deserves, if not a title shot, the number 1 contender shot. Muhammad Makhachev as well, of course. He is ridiculous. 22 years old, Dagestani British, absolute beast. Fucked up Gordon for every single round. Got a nasty armbar as well at the end of the 3rd round. He's now on a 3-fight win streak since entering the UFC in March. I was, fortunate to be there for his debut. And I just think this kid, I think he's got until March 2024 to become the youngest ever UFC champion. You look at the flyweights, he's calling out everyone. I don't see why you can't see Muhammad Makhachev maybe even getting a ranking after that performance. If not, definitely, I think he's due a fight against a ranked opponent. If he gets a fight at the UFC, in England in March, that would have been 4 fights in a year. You know, that's what Dana likes, consistent fighters, you know, staying active, dominating his fights as well. Like, he's not just winning his fights, he's absolutely dominating his opponents. And whether he becomes the youngest UFC champion or not is, you know, yet to be seen. I think he's got the potential to do it, but I think what's clear is Muhammad Makhachev will 1,000,000% become a champion in the UFC. I think this weekend also does go to show how much better the UFC is than boxing. The UFC constantly put on the best fights in the world, week in, week out, stat cards. I mean, the first fight on the early prelims was a ranked fight in the women's division. So I think that, again, just shows the level. Tyson Fury, who is by far my favourite heavyweight, but, you know, look at what he's doing now. Joe Joyce is there to make a fight. Usyk's there. AJ, who's he fighting? Fucking Derek Chisora again. I mean, he's obviously going to beat Derek Chisora. It's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. You know, next month in the UFC, you've got Adesanya against Miguel Pereira. Month after, you got Yuri Prohaska finishing the year against Glover Teixeira in that unbelievable rematch. I think the UFC just absolutely shits. I mean, I think the Oliveira Makhachev fight was one of the greatest match fights in UFC history, simply because where they were both at, the runs that they were both on. My betting advice is obviously terrible as well, because I didn't win any money again, and now I did my betting tips. But again, it's the fuck, mate. Fighting is the hardest thing to predict, so it's pretty funny. I'm gonna be like OG. I'm gonna have to start going to school, take Luke Rockhold's advice, and start doing my homework properly, because wow, that Makhachev prediction was completely off. Make sure you support the podcast at Paul's Pod on TikTok and Instagram. Obviously, Paul's Pod on YouTube. You know, I've still got loads of stuff I'm trying to do before the end of the year. Hopefully, got a few more cool podcasts. Hopefully got a couple of UFC fighters coming on the podcast too. Mentioned maybe Jared Gordon. That should be, you know, a good little podcast. He's just signed to fight Paddy the Baddy. But yeah, peace and love.